Most people don't realize they are spending their way out of financial freedom, $10 at a time. I'm not talking about buying a house you can't afford or leasing a BMW on a teacher's salary. I'm talking about the small stuff. The purchases you make without thinking. The ones that don't even show up on your mental budget because each one feels too small to matter. Here's the truth. It's not the big purchases that are ruining your future. It's the small ones you repeat every single day without noticing. You're not behind on retirement because you don't earn enough. A lot of people who earn good money are still going to work at 67, stressed, tired, and wondering where all the money went. And some people earning average salaries are retiring at 50 with enough money to last the rest of their lives. The difference is not income. The difference is what they kept buying. Most people believe that retiring early is only possible if you earn a lot of money. 6 figures minimum. Maybe more. That sounds logical. But it's wrong. I've looked at the numbers on this many times. A person earning $55,000 a year who saves and invests aggressively can build more long-term wealth than someone earning $120,000 who spends freely. The math is not complicated. What you keep matters more than what you earn. The problem is spending habits. Specifically, the kind of spending habits that feel completely normal because everyone around you has them too. These habits quietly destroy something called compounding, which is the process of your money growing on top of itself over time. When you waste money today, you're not just losing that money. You're losing everything that money could have become over the next 20 or 30 years. And that number is almost always much bigger than people expect. Let me show you exactly what I mean. If you spend $10 every day on things you don't need, and a lot of people spend more than that without realizing it, that's $3,650 a year. That's money that leaves your life and never comes back. But here's where it gets serious. If instead of spending that $10 a day you invested it, put it into an index fund earning an average of 8% per year, over 30 years that $10 a day becomes approximately $490,000. Not $3,650. Nearly $500,000. $10 a day. Coffee, delivery fees, impulse buys, subscriptions you forgot about. That's all it takes to either build or destroy nearly $500,000 over a working lifetime. So when I say every unnecessary expense isn't just money spent, I mean it literally. Every time you spend money you didn't need to spend, you're not just buying something today. You're selling a piece of your future at a price that is almost always too low. So in this video, I'm going to show you 15 specific things you need to stop buying in 2026. Not because they're expensive on their own, but because they silently delay your financial freedom, one small purchase at a time. These are not random items. I've grouped them into 5 categories based on why people buy them, because understanding the reason is just as important as knowing what to cut. And before we start, this is not about living a miserable, boring, joyless life. I'm not here to tell you to stop having fun. I'm here to show you the difference between spending that actually improves your life and spending that only feels like it does. Item 1. Daily food delivery. Food delivery apps are one of the most expensive habits a person can have in 2026. And most people who use them regularly have no idea how much they're actually spending. Here's how the math works. You order a meal that would cost you $12 at the restaurant. By the time you add the delivery fee, the service fee, the small order fee, and a tip, you're paying $22 to $28 for the same meal. That's a markup of roughly 80 to 130%. If you order delivery 4 times a week, which is not unusual for someone living alone in a city, you're spending around $400 to $450 a month on food delivery alone. That's $5,000 a year. For food that is, at best, the same quality as what you'd eat if you just went and picked it up yourself. Over 20 years, with that money invested instead, you're looking at roughly $290,000. I'm not saying never order delivery. I'm saying if it's a daily or near-daily habit, it is costing you a massive amount of money for a convenience that, most of the time, you don't actually need. Cook 4 days a week. Order delivery twice. You'll save $200 to $250 a month and barely notice the difference in your lifestyle. Item 2. Forgotten and unused subscriptions. Raise your hand if you know exactly how many subscriptions you're currently paying for. Most people can't name them all without checking their bank statement. Here's what I want you to do right now, or after this video. Open your bank or credit card statement and look for every recurring charge. Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, HBO Max, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Prime, a gym you haven't been to in 4 months, a meditation app you opened twice, a news site you never read, a software tool from a free trial that quietly turned into a $15 monthly charge. The average person in the US is paying for subscriptions they don't use, and the average amount wasted on unused subscriptions is estimated to be around $300 per year. Some studies put it higher, closer to $600. That might sound small, but $300 a year invested for 25 years at 8% is about $25,000. For services you are not using. That is genuinely painful to think about. Audit your subscriptions every 6 months. Cancel anything you haven't used in the last 30 days. This takes about 20 minutes and costs you nothing. Item 3. Convenience store and gas station purchases. A bottle of water at a gas station costs $2.50. At a grocery store, a 24-pack of the same water costs $4. That is a 1,400% markup per bottle. The same logic applies to snacks, energy drinks, gum, phone chargers, headphones. Everything sold at a gas station or convenience store is priced at a significant premium because they know you're in a hurry and you'll pay it. If you stop in at a gas station or convenience store and spend $8 to $12 a few times a week, which a lot of commuters and travelers do regularly, you're spending $150 to $200 a month on overpriced convenience. Bring a water bottle. Pack a snack. It takes 30 seconds of preparation and saves you real money every single week. Item 4. Upgrading your phone every year or two. The average new flagship smartphone in 2026 costs between $900 and $1,300. And every year or every 2 years, millions of people hand over that amount for a phone that is, in most real-world cases, barely different from the one they already have. The camera might be slightly better. The chip is faster. But if you're using your phone to call people, send messages, scroll social media, and take photos, a phone that is 3 or 4 years old does all of that just as well. The upgrade is not being driven by need. It's being driven by wanting the newest thing. By seeing other people with it. By the feeling that having the latest version of something says something about you. It doesn't. No one is impressed by your phone model. And even if they were, is $1,000 a reasonable price to pay for that impression? If you upgrade every 2 years, you're spending roughly $500 to $600 per year on phones. If you stretch that to every 4 years, you cut that cost in half and the phone still works perfectly. Item 5. Designer and brand name clothing bought for validation. I want to be clear about something. There is nothing wrong with owning nice clothes. Quality clothing that lasts for years is actually a good financial decision. This item is specifically about buying designer or brand name clothing because of the logo, because of what you want other people to think when they see you wearing it. A plain white t-shirt from a Quality Basics brand costs $20 to $30 and lasts 2 to 3 years. The same plain white t-shirt with a specific logo on it costs $150 to $400. The cotton is similar. The construction is similar. What you're paying for is the name. If your wardrobe is filled with purchases like this, and for a lot of people it is, you may be spending thousands of dollars a year on clothes that serve exactly the same function as clothes that cost a fraction of the price. Ask yourself honestly, if no one could see the label, would you still buy it at that price? For most logo-driven purchases, the honest answer is no. Item 6. Expensive outings to keep up with other people's lifestyles. This one is subtle but extremely common. You get invited to a dinner at a restaurant you wouldn't normally choose. You go because you don't want to seem cheap or miss out. You spend $90 on a dinner you didn't really enjoy that much. Or you go on a trip with friends to a destination that's beyond your budget because everyone else is going and you don't want to be left out. You put it on a credit card and spend the next 3 months paying it off. Social pressure is one of the most powerful financial forces in most people's lives, and it almost never gets talked about in personal finance conversations. But I've seen it derail genuinely good financial plans because the person kept spending to match the lifestyle of the people around them instead of spending in line with their own goals. You don't have to isolate yourself, but you do need to be honest about when you're spending money for your own enjoyment versus spending money because you're afraid of what people will think if you don't. Item 7. Premium brand products when a cheaper version is identical. There are certain product categories where the brand name genuinely does offer better quality. And there are many product categories where it absolutely does not, and you are paying purely for the name. Medications are the clearest example. The active ingredient in a generic ibuprofen is exactly the same molecule as in brand name Advil. The FDA requires it. Generic ibuprofen costs about $4. Brand name Advil costs about $12 for the same number of pills. You are paying 3 times more for the same thing. The same applies to many grocery staples. Store brand oats, flour, sugar, canned goods, cleaning products, and basic toiletries are manufactured to the same standards as name brand versions and often come from the same factories. Switching from name brand to store brand or generic on 10 to 15 regular grocery items can save a family $50 to $80 a month. Over a year, that's $600 to $1,000. 4 identical products. Item 8. Overpriced convenience services you could easily do yourself. I want to be careful with this one because time is genuinely valuable, and paying someone to do something so you can use that time productively is a completely legitimate financial decision. But there's a version of convenience spending that isn't about saving meaningful time. It's just about avoiding mild effort. Paying $15 to have someone pick up your dry cleaning when the dry cleaner is 3 minutes from your route to work. Paying $50 for an assembly service for a flat pack bookshelf that takes 45 minutes to build. Paying for a car wash subscription when you drive through rain every other week and your car gets cleaned for free. These individual costs seem minor, but people who habitually pay for small conveniences spend significantly more per month than they realize on tasks that require very little of their time. Item 9. Lifestyle inflation after a pay raise. This is the sneakiest item on the entire list. You get a raise. Your income goes up by $400 a month. And within 3 to 4 months, your spending has quietly expanded to absorb that entire raise. Your lifestyle upgraded to meet your new income, and you feel no richer than before. This happens to almost everyone who doesn't consciously prevent it. It's called lifestyle inflation, and it's the reason people earning $80,000 a year feel just as financially tight as they did when they were earning $50,000. The rule I'd suggest: when you get a pay raise, direct at least 75% of the increase straight into savings or investments before it reaches your spending account. You'll barely notice the difference in your daily life. But over 10 years, automating that habit every time your income grows will have a dramatic effect on your net worth. Item 10. Stress purchases. You've had a hard day. Work was difficult, or something stressful happened, and by the end of the day you want to feel better. So you buy something. Not because you needed it. Not because you'd planned to. But because buying something feels good for about 20 minutes and temporarily relieves the feeling of stress or frustration. This is extremely common, and there's a real psychological reason it happens. Shopping produces a small release of dopamine, the same chemical involved in reward and pleasure. Your brain learns that buying things makes you feel better in the short term. Over time, it starts to suggest shopping as a solution to negative emotions. The problem is that the relief is short-term. The spending is permanent. And if this is a regular pattern, a few impulse purchases a week driven by emotion, you can easily be spending $150 to $300 a month on things you didn't want and didn't plan to buy. Identify what triggers your stress purchases. For a lot of people, it's online shopping late at night. A simple rule: add it to the cart, wait 48 hours. Most of the time, you won't buy it. Item 11. I deserve this purchases. This is slightly different from stress spending. This is the purchase you make as a reward to yourself after something went well, or after a period of restraint. I've been working really hard lately, I deserve this. I didn't spend anything last week. I deserve this. I had a good month at work. I deserve this. The problem isn't treating yourself occasionally. The problem is when "I deserve this" becomes a trigger that can be activated at almost any time by almost any justification. When the reward system has no structure, it becomes a way of spending money without feeling like you're making a decision. You do deserve good things. But you also deserve financial freedom. Decide in advance what a reasonable planned treat looks like for you. A specific monthly amount set aside for fun and indulgence. That way you can actually enjoy it without it quietly destroying your long-term plan. Item 12. A car that's too expensive for your income. There's a general financial guideline that says your car should cost no more than 15% of your annual gross income. If you earn $60,000 a year, that means your car should cost no more than $9,000. Most people buy cars that cost far more than that. The average new car price in the US in 2026 is around $48,000. If you finance that at current interest rates over 60 months, you're paying around $900 a month. On a $60,000 salary, that's over 18% of your gross income going to just the car payment, before insurance, fuel, maintenance, and repairs. An expensive car also depreciates. The average new car loses around 20% of its value in the first year. On a $48,000 car, that's nearly $10,000 gone in 12 months just from driving it. Buy a reliable used car. Pay cash if you can. A 3-year-old Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic with 30,000 miles costs around $18,000 to $22,000, is mechanically proven, has low running costs, and gets you from point A to point B just as effectively as a brand new $48,000 vehicle. The difference in monthly cost invested over 15 years is hundreds of thousands of dollars. Item 13. High-interest debt purchases. If you are buying things on a credit card and not paying the full balance every month, you are paying interest, often between 20% and 28% annually in the US right now. That means a $500 purchase that you pay off over 12 months at 24% interest actually costs you around $570. And if you're carrying a balance of $5,000, which is close to the US average, you're paying roughly $1,200 a year just in interest. That's money that produces nothing. It doesn't buy you anything new. It just services a debt. High-interest debt is the single most effective wealth destroyer available to ordinary people. It works in reverse. Instead of your money compounding for you, it compounds against you. The rule is simple but requires discipline. Only buy on credit what you can pay off in full at the end of the month. If you can't pay it off, you can't afford it. Item 14. Housing that is significantly more than you need. This one requires some nuance because housing is complicated and local markets vary enormously. But the principle is this. A significant number of people are paying substantially more for housing than they need to in order to be comfortable, and that excess cost is silently preventing them from building wealth. The standard guideline is that housing should cost no more than 30% of your gross income. In expensive cities that can be very hard to achieve. But a lot of people in lower cost of living areas are still spending 40% or more of their income on housing because they chose the nicest apartment they could qualify for rather than the one that made financial sense. Every extra $300 a month you spend on housing above what you actually need is $3,600 a year. Invested over 20 years at 8%, that's nearly $180,000. The question to ask is not, can I afford this place? The question is, do I actually need this much space and these features, or am I paying a premium for things I want but could live without? Item 15. Extended warranties and financial products you don't understand. This is the last one, and possibly the most overlooked. Extended warranties are almost always poor value. The reason stores push them so aggressively, you've definitely been asked multiple times at checkout whether you want one, is that they are highly profitable for the seller and statistically unlikely to benefit the buyer. Consumer electronics rarely break within the warranty period. If they break at all, it's usually either very early, covered by the manufacturer's warranty, or late in the product's life when you'd probably be replacing it anyway. Studies consistently show that the average consumer spends more on extended warranties over their lifetime than they ever receive back in claims. The same logic applies to various financial add-ons: credit card payment protection insurance, extended auto warranties sold by third parties, and similar products. These are sold in moments when you're already committing to a purchase and your guard is down. They are priced to be profitable for the seller, which means, on average, they are priced to lose money for you. Decline them as a default. Self-insure by keeping a small emergency fund instead. Okay. So we've covered all 15 items. But here's the part that most personal finance videos skip entirely. And I think it's the most important part. Knowing what to stop buying isn't enough. Because if it were, everyone who's ever watched a Stop Wasting Money video would be rich by now. Clearly that's not how it works. So why do people keep buying things they know aren't good for their financial future? Your brain is not designed for long-term financial planning. That's not an insult. It's just neuroscience. Your brain has a strong preference for things that feel good right now over things that will feel good in 20 years. When you're standing in a store, or scrolling online at 11 p.m., or sitting in a car dealership, you are not thinking about your 60-year-old self. You're thinking about how you feel right now and how quickly you can feel better. There's also something called social comparison, the instinct to measure yourself against the people around you. This instinct is ancient and powerful, and it gets activated every time you see someone with something you don't have, or every time you imagine what people might think of you based on what you own. And then there's identity. A lot of spending isn't really about the product. It's about who you believe you are or who you want to be seen as. The luxury car isn't transportation. It's a statement. The designer bag isn't storage. It's a signal. Understanding that a purchase is actually about identity rather than function helps you ask a better question. Is this the most cost-effective way to feel good about myself? Almost always, the answer is no. You're not bad with money. Your brain is doing exactly what it was built to do. But you're living in an environment that was specifically designed, by advertisers, by social media, by the entire retail industry, to exploit those instincts as often as possible. The people who retire early don't have superpowers. They are not all high earners. They are not all financial geniuses. They just stopped feeding the habits that keep most people stuck. One by one, they looked at their regular spending and asked, does this actually improve my life, or does it just feel like it does in the moment? And they were honest about the answers. That's it. That is genuinely the whole secret. I don't want to leave you with just a list of things to stop doing. Here's what to do with the money instead. Step 1. Automate your savings. On the day you get paid, move a fixed percentage directly into a savings or investment account before you have a chance to spend it. Even 10% is a meaningful start. Most people find that after 2 or 3 months, they don't miss it because they never had the chance to get used to having it. Step 2. Invest in index funds. You don't need to be a stock picker. A simple low-cost index fund that tracks the S&P 500 has returned an average of roughly 10% annually over the last 50 years. $500 a month invested consistently for 25 years at that rate becomes approximately $590,000. That's not a hypothetical. That's just how compound growth works. Step 3. Build a conscious spending plan. This is different from a traditional budget, which feels restrictive. A conscious spending plan has 4 categories: fixed necessities, investments and savings, guilt-free spending, and one-time purchases. You decide in advance how much goes to each category. Within the guilt-free spending amount, you can buy whatever you want without thinking about it. The point is that you decided beforehand, so nothing is an impulse. Step 4. Audit your spending every 90 days. Not to punish yourself, just to see clearly. A lot of people are genuinely surprised what they find when they look at 3 months of transactions. Awareness alone tends to change behavior without requiring willpower. I want to end on this because I think it matters. This isn't about being cheap. Cheap is refusing to spend money on things that genuinely improve your life because you're afraid of money leaving your account. What I'm describing is something different. It's about being intentional. It's about spending money on things that actually matter to you and cutting the spending that doesn't. Not because someone told you to, but because you looked at it honestly and decided it wasn't worth what it cost you. The people who achieve financial independence don't think of themselves as people who are very good at not spending money. They think of themselves as people who are in control of where their life is going. Spending decisions are just one expression of that. Every time you skip an unnecessary purchase, you're not depriving yourself. You're making a decision that your future matters more than that particular moment. And the more often you make that decision, the more natural it feels, until it's not something you have to force yourself to do. It's just who you are. Remember what I said at the start of this video. It's not the big purchases ruining your future. It's the small ones you don't even think about. The $15 delivery fee. The subscription you forgot about. The phone upgrade you didn't need. The car payment that's $300 more than it had to be. The credit card interest on a balance you've been carrying for 2 years. None of those feel significant in the moment. Each one is easy to justify. Each one feels like a normal, reasonable thing that normal, reasonable people do. But when you add them up, and when you run the numbers over 20 or 25 or 30 years, they are the difference between working until you physically can't anymore, and walking away from your job on your own terms, at a time you choose, with enough money to last the rest of your life. Those small purchases you barely think about? They're not small. They're the price of your freedom. And right now, most people are paying that price without knowing it. You don't have to.